You're hearing CNN live. So this is crazy. I had to get something online for this one. So now we have judicial review squashed in Israel. Supreme Court has lost part of its power to overrule a lot of things that the government has been doing. And it seems like right wing conservatism is taking more precedence instead of the rule of common sense. This is what's happening in Israel, and this is what's probably going to be happening in the United States. We've already had certain rules and rights being stripped away by the Supreme Court with the process of judicial review going on. Over 60 years or more than that of Roe v. Wade, when it was allowing abortions to happen. And now, because of the conservative court overruled it in the functional parts of the law, took away its power and allowed the other states to have more control over the abortions. Or for those who are very conservative, I suppose we're going to be having more and more major medical issues in those states. How they would use a woman's body as a potential here, just to say that you don't have any rights anymore. I'm still expecting the conservative court to really screw up civil rights at this point, trying to bring back our country worse, where they would make the well, if we actually had a law going through the pipes that would change all our history books federally. I'm saying, for example, here that everything that we learned in the history books was wrong and it has to be looked at it this particular way because that's the way it was supposed to be according to what conservative groups are pushing this thing through. And if every damn state, or actually conservative states, got the majority and pushed it through Congress, Congress would have a field day over the damn thing. But we're dealing with court cases all the way through the Supreme Court to conservatives. Would they actually take away civil rights of people? I mean, if there was enough precedent and enough legal issues being challenged on it, would those challenges be bumped up to judicial review to where any laws that we already passed for civil rights be tossed out on its ear? Think of it in this particular situation over here, because now we got Netanyahu doing the same situation here. He's thinking that the judicial review is far more powerful than the elected. But then again, he keeps forgetting that the president of the elected had made the choices for the Supreme Court, like ours did. But he doesn't like this. He doesn't like the checks and balances because he wants his power at this point. He's prime minister. He feels like he's got all the power, despite the president. He's got the power, and he's willing to use it. There may have been a time I may have had some respect for the guy. I lost it a long time ago. Maybe I'm too damn liberal at this point over here. Maybe I'm thinking and feeling too damn liberal at this point that some things are taken for granted. Some things I had taken for granted. But now I'm seeing how things can be untaken, or actually taken away from me. And some people will probably look at it in one particular viewpoint, thinking that to break the law of the land, how dare you? What particular law of the land am I breaking at this point over here? Well, you're saying the freedom of speech at this point over here. How about we take that away from you? How about we take away due process, the Miranda rights, right to a speedy trial? We'll take that away from you. We'll just keep the Second Amendment there, and everything else goes hell in a handbasket. But the press will take away. How about that one? You can't gather in any other place to protest because that'll be considered illegal against the regime, against the government you voted for. Yeah, right. It would scare the hell out of me if the Supreme Court actually had to burr up his ass to make those kind of court cases, but they'd had to have the court case in front of them to make that kind of situation, to make that kind of review. So somebody crazy enough would have to produce it raw and send it over to them. But it'll be up to the court to decide whether or not they actually want to take the case because of merits. And will this be affecting them one way or another? And they'll have to think about it. And the thinking about the Supreme Courts is we make them permanent. You're in there for life until you die or you retire. It's not a swapping in and swapping out like the elected would be for the lower courts that they would have to run for office all the damn time. The federal district courts are the same thing. Once they're in there for life until they get retired or they get replaced somehow. They die or that's it. Or they retire and they got to get replaced. There are no checks and balances on how to get them replaced if we actually have a problem. We would be having a 25th Amendment issue a crisis on every damn federal judge if we actually did have something of a burp at their ass. We don't even have that in the law books yet, at least not that I'm aware of. But that would mean that we would have to put more of the power into the electric. But then again, it was already the electric and the Constitution setting them up in the first place. I mean, we did just set up the Supreme Court, but then it took rules and regulations and also took laws, I imagine, to get the district courts up and running and how they're supposed to be worked out. But imagine having that kind of a judicial system already upended. There has been talk for decades, about a two-tier system. Are we seeing something of a two-tier system in Israel? Or do we know if it is a two-tier system? And how are we supposed to be able to deal with it? They changed their court system. They changed their political system in a way that would it make it fair or unfair for the people and those around them and inside the country. And yes, the Palestinians are subject to Israeli law because Israel is the country that they're in, and they're only allowed certain territories to live and expand in. But what also pisses off the Palestinians more and more is when their territory gets smaller and smaller because the Israelis want to have more and more settlements to be built. And over the decades, the Palestinians are becoming more and more aggravated over it, and I don't blame them, especially when their territory gets taken more and more, and as Israel gets more and more greedy sometimes. Sometimes people consider it a place to visit, to reflect upon our religious values and our religious upbringings. And the hardest damn thing is one day you're probably out and about looking at the sights, and the next day you're probably in rubble. Because if somebody actually had to burp their butt making a political or religious statement against Israel itself and the people. And if there are any tourists, they're collateral damage. Of course, there'll be outrage. Palestinians wouldn't be hard hit by the Israelis, but they'll be laughing their asses off, at least the ones that actually did it, and say, we made this message across. Israel tried to come close to doing a two-tier system in there, actually a two-party system in their country. But apparently, the conservatives will say, no, this is our territory, screw you. That's the message. And that's what drives me crazy sometimes, is when we have the people who think that they're too powerful, and they've got military that they can use to enforce anything and everything. I don't think I would want to visit Israel, even if it meant going into the heart of Roman territory here, of sorts, of an empire. Why would I say that? A long time ago, when the Roman Empire was expanding its borders like crazy, even the Middle East had had felt them, even on the outer edges of the empire. They had to extend. They had to use other people in different countries to grow their army to continue to conquer. They trained them like crazy and promised them or gave them something, but to have continuing service to the empire and to the ruler, despite the fact you may have religious preferences saying otherwise. I had seen a lot of Hollywood representations of what the Roman Empire was like. We only go by books. We only go by manuscripts. We only go by parchments and oral history of what the empire was like during those days. That fuels our imagination and how we interpret it and reinterpret it. going into a country we're supposed to be thick with religion and worshiping, and then you have all hell breaking loose. Tel Aviv gets bombed. Originally, it was supposed to be the center of power, but they all fight and try to keep power in Jerusalem. Jerusalem, the holy city that represents many things to a lot of religions back east, back in the Middle East. It's supposed to be bringing hope, or it's supposed to be bringing despair. I'm not quite sure if I would be ready to take such a journey. And coming into a foreign land that would be ready to kill me. In fact, I might go outside my door and get killed by someone out here. But this is what's happening in our day. We go out to the streets, we go out to sidewalks, we go into other people's homes. How do we know that we're not going to get killed? Are our laws strong enough? Is the enforcement strong enough? Do we nationalize? Do we need to have our government system and our court systems changed so radically that if we actually have people uprising, and many have done it, they're still trying to do it in Israel, they're getting pushed back, having barbed wire preventing them from making their protests known. Where the people who are supposed to elect the officials in office that you know, makes the decisions and running the country. Well, apparently things are going to be radically changed in Israel. But how the hell is it translated in America? Because right now we've got presidential candidates who are trying to do exactly that. And some of them are coming from states that consider the rule of the elitism more important, the minority versus the majority. According to their view of democracy, one party rules all. And have their own religious viewpoints govern everything. It's bad enough when I keep seeing politicians keep denying what the hell went on January 6th, and yes, we had to keep bringing that up because January 6th was the crux of everything, wasn't it? It was people like going explosive at this point over here because they got convinced by a madman and parties like him that disrupting elections is the American way because they wanted the gas bag back in office, even though the electorate and the popular said no, we're not getting a gas bag back in office. So now we got other politicians running on a 2024 going to be saying that it didn't happen. We got tons of information saying it did happen. But other people are saying, no, it didn't happen. They weren't criminal. Even though damn, they got their lives threatened. So now we got a political party, a theoretical political party. Some believe that January 6th was threatening, and the others were just, no, 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 it wasn't. Give me a break. But we did have a popular uprising. Only instead of protesting and not destroying anything, we had people destroying things and getting arrested for it. And what happened? If our own Supreme Court had lost its power, judicial review being taken away, it would still be dependent upon a congressional system that still can't get its act together. House of Representatives currently can't get an act together, and the Senate is still divided. We couldn't even get the military appropriations going on. We couldn't even get the changes needed necessary in the military, personnel changes, ranks upgraded. None of it because of one senator who wants to hold power in his hands. Political appointments. What screwed the House of Representatives up? Yeah, they passed it with a lot of junk mail in the damn thing. So now the Senate's got to sort through the damn stuff and get the junk mail out of it. And then pass it over to the House and see if they'll be able to vote on the damn thing. And if they can't, well, it's back to square one again. Our military suffers. Now, if we actually had any judicial review on this one, if there was actually lawsuits going through the pipeline on this one, through the federal district courts, were the changes, were the laws, were the things legal or not? Bringing it all the way over to the Supreme Court, and they're going to have to look at precedent. And the Supreme Court's history has never done anything regarding like that. But what happens if they lost the power of judicial review? What happens if the changes they recommended couldn't be implemented because they lost the power? Israel's facing that right now. The power that they actually had in the Supreme Court concerning about judicial review is being taken away by a parliamentary vote. And the people are pissed. They're pissed. Imagine having it over here. What kind of reaction are we going to be having? We got to wake up on this shit.